do not have any clients scheduled to be in the clinic during this time frame, but we do accept walk-ins. So I just want a heads up to everyone that because of their privacy, if someone comes in, I'm going to close the door and just let everybody feel like they're trapped in there.
Sure.
Completely.
Great.
Thanks, Julie. And again, first of all, welcome here to CareNet. The meeting was scheduled to have maybe a roundtable discussion, so again, welcome everybody here. I'm going to just take a couple minutes and allow Liz. How many people here know what CareNet is and what they do? Is everybody?
Kind of a big.
Sure.
Yeah.
Liz and Julie, would you give a 5 minutes,
Sure.
your business plan here, what you do?
Sure. Our goal is to reach women and families, most often in an unplanned pregnancy, and help them understand what their options are going forward, to connect them with resources if they choose to carry that pregnancy to term, to provide parenting and childbirth education. We do sexually transmitted infections testing and treatment for women, pregnancy tests, verifications, ultrasounds, really anything around early pregnancy. And then for those women who don't have access, we help them connect with insurance, with a physician, with those kinds of things going through their pregnancy. We also, as part of our residential program, the Elizabeth House, we can house up to 8 women and their babies, typically moving in sometime in the second trimester of their pregnancy and staying for 6 to 9 months. So our goal with that is to give women who are homeless or on the verge of homelessness a chance to kind of step out of life, get their feet back under them, and then step back into life ready to go as moms and as citizens. So,
giving back to their communities. The Elizabeth House is a highly structured program. It is not a shelter. So the women come in knowing that they're involved in setting their own goals and working towards things. If they come in without a GED, that's mandatory. And we're just excited to say that so many of our women have achieved so much, have gone on and gotten CNA licenses and gotten jobs and really want to be able to give back to the community and, contribute and be able to provide for themselves and their child. So it's been a really rewarding thing to watch people move and not have to remain stuck in a situation that oftentimes they feel very confined and stuck in.
and I think probably surprising to most people, even clients, when they walk in the door, and residents or applicants to the Elizabeth House, is everything that we do here is free and confidential. So even the 6 to 9 months that a resident lives with us, all of her needs are met by the generosity of those who support our work. Anyone who is interested when we're done with this part, I would be happy to give you a tour at the end.
Thank you.
Completely a nonprofit, right? 100% nonprofit organization.
Yes.
That's great.
Thank you.
And also, to my right is Kevin Page. He's with Kofi Real Estate Partners. Kevin and his partner John Kofi are assisting land grant construction and CareNet through the process. And it's always nice to have a team put together very early to identify a project, the density, the architecture, the design, the city process, working through neighborhoods, working through government, state, etc., before a shovel goes into the ground on any project. So we've been working on this project, quite a while. I mean, there was a conceptual idea 2 years ago, and it sort of went into a quiet zone, and then it's resurfaced again, and we'll get into some of those details. So Kevin will talk a little bit with regards to what this project is in terms of the Section 42 WIDA project. And again, we'll talk about some of those terms and what they mean and what type of a project this represents. And also, you guys, everybody knows Joe, of course. And then to my far left is Heather Seller with the City of Madison Planning and Zoning Department. Heather and our team has worked before on several projects in the past, and she is wonderful. She's great to work with. You know, between Joe and Heather, just know you guys have great people working for the City of Madison in your neighborhood. I mean, I've done projects all over the city, I was born and raised in the city, and I know what it's like to work in different parts, and just feel grateful that you have people like Joe representing you and getting back to us and communicating, and that doesn't happen all the time, okay? So you represented very well. Heather is awesome, she makes things happen. When you hear about the picture of Madison in terms of people not getting projects approved, that's not always true. There are difficult projects out there, but Madison really does make an effort to work with people and have a program to get things done efficiently, and Heather is a big part of that. So I wanted to say thank you for her to come and talk about this. So, well, let's talk about the project a little bit, and then we'll have some questions and answers, but we'll go through the project. I just want everybody to know that CareNet is the developer. It's a nonprofit organization that was expressed. There are situations in the state of Wisconsin that sort of, through WIDA, where a nonprofit is engaged as the owner of a project, and a developer uses a nonprofit as a way of building a project. That has happened in the past, but not in this situation. This is a real grassroots project where CareNet wants to do this project because it's going to make things better for the people that use this building as a resource, need to continue with their life in a better situation for housing. These are people that go to work, these are people that go to school, support themselves with a wage, but need an affordable housing situation to go from step A to step B to step C, just like everybody wants to obtain in society. There are other people outside of the CareNet umbrella that would probably take advantage of the affordable housing aspect of this project as well. Projects like this have been built on the near east side of Madison and east side of Madison, similar to the O'Hara River project across from Marlin Lumber, which is about 10, 12 years ago. There's a project recently built at Section 42 Affordable Housing on Ingersoll off of Williamson Street. There was one that was recently built on the 600 block of East Johnson Street, right down the street from James Madison Park. Here you saw it's a row of townhouse type structures, nice architecture that fits in the neighborhood. Those are family dwellings, those are Section 42 type projects. So when you think of the architecture of a building, look at those as examples of clean, bright, new facilities. It's not just some little simple gable roof structure that somebody put up and looks really inexpensive. There's a lot of design criteria, there's a lot of efficiencies. We'll get to questions a little bit. We have a set of guidelines that are followed with the WIDA requirements that need to be followed, that are very detailed and very cost efficient and very energy efficient, that go into these projects. So these aren't something simply that just goes up and has cheap windows and doors put into them. So when CareNet approached us, they wanted to do this for the next step for a lot of their residents that move into the next stage of their life, in addition to helping other people on the east side of Madison and surrounding areas. So here we are. We've got a set of plans that identifies a site plan, the architectural levels from levels 1, 2, and 3, the relationship of the building as it relates to the site, setback off of Highway 51, the setback off of MacArthur Road, the setback of the adjacent properties. And we'd be happy to go through that with you and show that to you. Talk about the architecture a little bit, and then also talk about the density with regards to what's planned for this. But I would like to turn it over to Heather, if I could, in terms of talking about the planning process for a project like this. How a project goes from here to a shovel in the ground to completion.
So basically the path to completion of projects varies tremendously throughout the city based on what the request is from the developer and what the rights and sort of inherent, the zoning, which I know Hilton has been looking a lot into, the zoning and other rights are related to the parcel of land that you're dealing with. In this case, this is a vacant parcel of land, a little over an acre in size, and it's zoned C2, which is our general commercial district. In the C2 district, residential projects are allowable. They simply require a conditional use approval by the city's plan commission. And in the planning division, we as staff are really serve as staff to the plan commission. The plan commission is comprised of appointed officials and 3 alders that make decisions on land use requests, ranging from conditional uses like this to rezoning of property. The complexity really ranges quite a bit. In this case, the developer is requesting a conditional use to build a building that contains residential uses on both the first floor and upper levels. In the commercial, the C2 district, it would be allowed as a permitted use if it had commercial on the entire ground floor with residential above. But since it's a residential project that does include residential units on that ground floor, it requires a conditional use in this case. And so schedule-wise, the application was actually submitted to the city just today, or yesterday, sorry. We as staff took a first look at it today in the staff meeting. And then we have about 6 or 8 weeks until the plan commission meeting. It would be on January 14th, the way that the schedule aligns with the application that's been submitted. And so January 14th, the plan commission will hold a public hearing on this and many other items that have been submitted recently. And at that public hearing, which is held downtown in the city-county building, anyone that shows up is welcome to speak to the plan commission for a 3-minute time period. Folks are always welcome to send written comments in advance of the plan commission meeting to me or other staff, and we pass those along to the plan commission so they see them before the meetings. It's a real, public open process there, and I think, in this case, this is a bonus. This is an early, neighborhood meeting, a chance to really ask questions and sort of develop a sense of any concerns that you may have, any issues, perhaps just supporting the project or aspects of it. A chance to really get a grasp of what is being proposed and your feelings on the matter. And so I think this is a good forum for getting to know the project earlier rather than waiting until that public hearing in mid-January to hear about it. Does that provide a good enough summary to sort of introduce the process here? All right.
And to my right is Kevin Page, and Kevin is working with Karen and us as a team to help foster this project through what's called the WEDA, Wisconsin Housing Economic Development Authority Section 42 program, similar to the 3 programs that were built in the last 12 years in Madison and others around the city of Madison as well. Kevin's going to talk a little bit about that process and certain deadlines and what Section 42 represents for a project like this.
Well, the Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority, WEDA, allocates tax credits to various affordable housing projects around the state. And each year there'll be typically between 60 to 80 projects that are looking to get approval for tax credits. And essentially, if you are awarded tax credits, you're able to, it's just another source of funding the project. This project, we're looking at this as an integrated model where there's 36 total apartment units. They'll be for varying income types, people that are at the 30% county median income level, the 50% county median income level, 30, 50, 60, and then also some actual market rate apartments. So it's a kind of an integrated model where there's going to be a wide variety of people with different income types. And as part of that, we're going through the city process now to get approval through a conditional use permit. And then the first week of February, we'll actually submit an application to WEDA as part of this tax credit allocation process. These projects all get submitted at the same time every year, and then over about a 2-month period of time, WEDA has a scoring model that they use to score each of the different projects, and then they will select typically between 10 to 20 of those projects that are submitted for approval of tax credits. And then from that point, there's a compliance process that you work through with WIDA if you were awarded tax credits for the project over the next couple months after that, and then construction would presumably begin, late summer to early fall of next year.
So when Kevin talks about the Dane County median income level, is that the average Dane County wage in the county, which is represented by how much? It's public knowledge, is it like?
Yeah, for a one person household, the county median income's about $58,000 per year.
50?
58,000.
Oh,
yeah.
58.
Yeah, and then, they have a different number for 2-person homes, 3-person homes, and 4-person homes. And again, with our integrated model, we have 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom, so you'll have different households between, 1 person and potentially 5 or 6 people, depending on, how large the family is and which units we're talking about.
So this is for couples then?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. Seniors as well, and young people starting off with jobs, coming out of school.
For seniors too?
And possibly, some, for individuals with some disabilities.
Right.
Because one of the things that we really want to be able to do is provide ongoing services, and then to individuals that would have disabilities that are in need of supportive services, like a caregiver coming in and helping them with activities of daily living, or maybe grocery shopping or something like that. So very service-oriented with our supportive housing units.
So,
And income-based, right? So if I wanted to rent at 30% of the market, I have to be at 30% of the WIDA-based median income.
Correct.
So if I was a single-family home and it's $50,000, I can only make up to 30% of that $50,000 in order to be a potential applicant for a unit that is 30% of the market rate.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And so the integrated model we have now, it means 6 of the 36 would be for these supportive services that Liz mentioned, that have the ability to receive the supportive services. We have a whole plan in place on what those services are. Most of them are similar to the exact services that CareNet provides to the people that live at the Elizabeth House, or people that do, come in for counseling and life skills, nutritional services, that type of thing. So that's just 6 of the 36 units that would.
So 6 of the 36 are an extension of Elizabeth House in essence.
It is essentially, yeah.
Okay.
That's a great need that we've seen, is the lack of ongoing support if our residents that have graduated from the program are dispersed all over. It's just really hard, and so we did an informal survey, because we wanted to make sure that they would even want to live that close to us again after being in a structured environment. And they're like, yes, because we want to be able to provide ongoing parenting education until their child is like 3 years old. So there is high interest from our residents.
now again, with the WIDA process, there's a deadline on February 1st where all this information comes together with regards to the unit design, the plan design, the site layout, the information that we have to put together with regards to the efficiencies of the furnaces, space density, corridors. There's a whole list of information. It's available online too if you want to look at it through WIDA, through the Section 42 program. This information all goes in February 1st, and WIDA evaluates it. Their team of leaders evaluate it to see if this is a good fit for this side of town. And there's market studies that are done out in society by professionals that determine if you're in Superior, if you're in Green Bay or Madison, what areas really would be in need of a building like this in terms of affordable housing. And WIDA uses a lot of that information as criteria to see if it's a good fit. So it's not 100% that this is a project that would be approved, but we've put enough effort into this, and we've talked to enough of the individuals at WIDA that feel it is, that this is something that they feel would be very beneficial for this area in Madison. And they like it because the owner engaged in the project. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of times where a nonprofit or an owner isn't even engaged in the program, but they, CareNet, are engaged in this project. There is a professional property manager that would be required by WIDA to run this facility for the leases and do the audit inspection to make sure that they are income qualified. So if they're 30 or 40 or 50% of Dane County median income, they have to have an audited report once a year to make sure that they're following through on those rules. Okay? That information all goes back to WIDA, and there's people that review that and say, okay, this project's doing it, you know, and that's a responsibility, that's a professional responsibility that has to be done by the property manager. And we'll be working with a company called Meridian, if this project is successful through WIDA, and the city called Meridian, and they do this all over the state by managing projects like this, in addition to senior and other facilities, in addition to Section 42.
One
that's very
really
important to
quick
remember.
question. Do they manage any of the other 3 projects that you mentioned that have been built in the past 12 years that are Section 42? And also, did you guys build those? Because I'd like to see, like, visually, like, oh, this looks really pretty. But if you guys didn't build them, it doesn't mean a whole lot to me. You know what I mean? That's a good representation, but it's not your construction.
Like the Ingersoll.
You know what I mean? Like, I was wondering, did you build one of the 3 that you mentioned?
I was engaged on the one with another company on Yahara River 12 years ago.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's a good one to get a representation of what.
Yeah, but we could get you, we could get you a list of, I can get you a list of projects that we've done.
Sure. I'm a real visual learner, so.
Sure, you bet, good question. So from a development standpoint, from a construction standpoint, I mean, just like what we had here, we had construction meetings, and people from the neighborhood were welcome to come to those if they wanted to. From a staging standpoint, noise, that'll all be talked about later at another meeting. Just to go through that to make sure you're comfortable that there's people not working here at 8 o'clock at night and so on. So there's a professional responsibility, of course, to relay that to you. So we've talked about development, we've talked about the city process, we've talked about the building. We're gonna go through the plans and look at this a little bit so you get an opportunity. Again, we're sorry that we didn't know this many people were gonna show up, otherwise we'd put on a PowerPoint, but we'll do the best we can to show you the illustrations of the renderings. And just go through the process. Is there anything I may have missed, Kevin, you think?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it'll give you a good idea once you see the drawing, and again, I apologize, I'll bring some more copies with tonight.
Before we look at that, could we ask a few questions? Like, CareNet is going to pay for this building, is that,
CareNet?
you are, CareNet is paying for this building?
I'll let Kevin readdress that again. Mine?
Yeah, where is the money coming from to give you?
Yeah, so the project will be funded, so.
I know through WIDA, but,
Yep, so when,
Does everybody understand how tax credits work?
No.
Give you the-
no.
Not at
That's
all.
very-
You
That's
still
good.
have to have more than tax credits to build a building.
correct, yep, absolutely. So if we're awarded the tax credits in April, we will partner with a tax credit investor that will buy those tax credits. So we will essentially sell the tax credits to the tax credit investor. They will provide equity cash to help fund the project. And that'll be the majority of the capital needed for the project.
Really?
We'll also then go out and get a conventional mortgage or a conventional loan to fund another piece of the project. And basically, those are kind of the 2 main ways that, the financing will.
You will or CareNet will get the conventional loan?
There will be a new entity set up, which CareNet will be a partner in.
Okay, so that'll be a for-profit company that's separate from CareNet.
Correct.
Okay. So the actual entity over there, even though it'll always be maintained ownership by the umbrella of CareNet, correct?
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
It'll be managed by Meridian, but in essence, this will remain nonprofit. So this won't become a profitable entity here. That'll be profitable there. They're 2 separate companies, really, under one big umbrella. Is that the way to think of it?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a separate business
Okay.
entity,
Well-
but CareNet will be a partner within it.
Okay.
And I don't know if this helps at all, so forgive me on that, this is all new to me.
Me too.
But, the donor who gifted CareNet with that piece of, this property and that piece of property, his heart, his desire was that in some way it create just even a small revenue stream back to CareNet so that we could continue, you know, in this economy as a nonprofit to provide everything that we do free of charge and to be able to even expand our services in the community. And so that was really a piece of his heart in donating the land, which I think does help position us in the fact that we already own the property, where some of the projects that will be submitted won't have had that advantage.
Yeah. And that's another key piece to the financing too, is there's, the land itself is an asset and that gets contributed to as part of one of the ways to finance all of this. So it's really the land, the equity coming from the tax credit investor, and then a conventional mortgage.
And 100% of any profits are going to come actually back to CareNet to help support it.
Yeah.
Good.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
And then
Good.
There'll
it
be a
does-
slight,
it
there'll
does,
be a,
but I have another question.
there'll be a slight asset management fee that gets paid
For
to
Meridian.
the tax credit investor.
Oh, yeah.
Actually to the tax credit
Okay.
investor, but it's not much. The majority of the cash comes back to CareNet.
And I'll just interject real quick. If you ask why, what is a tax credit, who's buying these tax credits, there are companies out there in America that are doing okay. Even if this economy is not doing the greatest, there are some companies that are doing okay. It's their way of giving back to communities by buying the tax credits to offset profits, okay? It's their way of injecting money into the economy, into good projects to offset their profits. And there's people waiting in line to buy these tax credits from the investors because they know that they're good projects and they know they're going to be successful. And another thing to remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but with WIDA, since they've initiated the Section 42 projects in the state, there has not been one that has gone into default. WIDA is very, very careful about where a project is located, the size of the project, the architecture, who builds it, who is the property manager. They're very careful on that criteria. This is not something that they take lightly, okay? So this type of project has been built all over the state of Wisconsin, and not one is defaulted. So.
My other question is probably for the city planner or whatever, but most of us live on MacArthur or Sycamore that are in this room, and we want to make sure that because of this building, 36 units is huge, that the city isn't going to say, you have to have curb and gutter,
Okay.
because we don't want it. Well, oh no, we don't want it. There isn't anyone in this room that wants curb and gutter on MacArthur or Sycamore. And so that's a big problem. If the city would insist because of this 36 unit with all those people, all those cars, that the city would say we have to have curb and gutter.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can confirm with city engineering on this. Now, nobody in engineering has yet taken a look at the proposal. It'll get routed to them probably tomorrow, actually. Typically, when there is a new development, often there's curb, gutter, and sidewalk required for the extent of that
Well, there is
of that
sidewalk.
property.
We do
There
it
is, okay.
on one side.
It just
on
came in.
MacArthur.
We have no curb and
Both
gutter.
sides.
Okay,
No
so
curb.
there's
There's
a
a sidewalk.
sidewalk that'll lead to the transit stop. That's something that will be important, just to have a
There's
pedestrian
sidewalk.
connection
Yes,
to the new.
there is.
There
to
is.
the new,
Yes.
facility.
You can walk from the
Stops,
property.
It stops like right before my house.
Yeah, you can't walk out this way. The
Right.
sidewalk dead ends, but out to the bus stop you can.
Sure, that's important. I think that, would this project on this one property trigger a whole reconstruction of MacArthur? No, not in my estimation, but I want to confirm that with some city engineering staff, because that's
Good.
actually not in our,
Okay.
believe it or not,
Good,
it's not in our
because we don't want
division,
it.
but.
That'd be a
Right,
big
Don?
expense.
Oh, we don't want it. I've lived in this neighborhood for 50 years, and
48.
48 and 50 and 52.
Yeah,
So,
Joe, you might have more experience
Okay,
with
yeah.
previous.
Any alder on this Madison City Council, no alder in their right mind would ever recommend curb or gutter unless 100% of a neighborhood comes forward and specifically requests for it. I have no intention at all of doing anything with curb and gutter on here. But curb and gutter, I've had a couple of spots in District 17, It's where the residents, for one reason or another, they specifically requested it for it. And city staff engineering would never move ahead on it unless the alder for the area was completely behind it. And I'm not, you don't need that.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, I won't, I can have Christmas now.
That's very good.
Thank you, yes.
Cause you're just concerned about the
Oh, the
cost
cost.
sharing of, yeah.
Oh, is this would
Yeah,
be
this project,
terrible.
it's not on your, this would not trigger a whole street-wide, for
Well, we
construction.
all have
and stuff.
sidewalks on Sycamore, both sides.
And another good question is the actual infrastructure that has to be built to support a building like this. There's a new water and sewer line that would come in. This would be a sprinkler building from a fire safety standpoint. There would be a fire lane introduced into the parking lot, so an apparatus truck, fire truck could show up and have its outrigger. So it would be designed, but the building would be fully sprinklered. Another thing is the storm water that comes onto the roof, onto the parking lot, would enter into what's called a rain garden area, just similar to what Carenet has now. You're treating your water on site rather than flushing it into the street or into Highway 51 or into the gully on the ditch. So that's part of the Dane County water establishment, design establishment, where you have to take care of your water on site, your storm water, okay? So that's something important to know.
So is there a cost assessed to the residents for the new sewer and water line?
No.
Okay, and then would that potentially change things, like I really like my nice water pressure I have here? Would that potentially change that?
No, no.
Along with that, there's one other thing. So actually, I've got a ton of questions that I'm sure I'm not going to get to all of them, but you pretty much hit on all of them there with infrastructure. But I have a big concern with schools. So have you looked into the fact that can the schools handle the expected increase of density of what sounds to me like a lot of residents, potentially 36 units that are going to have young children? And I'm wondering if the school density can also, have you examined the ability? I know a lot of our schools are burdened already. They're packed to the gills. Classroom sizes are maxed out. So I don't have children myself, but I don't know if that's something that's been examined, because that I assume would be.
Sorry, through the plan commission process, we actually have a school representative that sits as a plan commission non-voting member that provides some guidance with regard to that. So we would check to see, which school this would be connected with, and make sure that I would doubt that there would be even 30 school-aged kids necessarily. It depends on the bedroom mix and things. If they were all 3-bedroom units, family-oriented, maybe it would raise their eyebrows a little bit, and they could do an analysis. But we'll make sure that there's no undue pressure to the schools as part of our review.
I can add a comment to that also. I believe Hawthorne School is the grade school for this area. I don't think it's Sandburg for it. And if you ever.
It is Sandburg.
Pardon?
It is Sandburg.
It is Sandburg,
Yep.
okay. Well, Sandburg is an immersion school on it. That school there would never have any problem if we have some increase enrollment out here. I had kind of thought it was Hawthorne, and Hawthorne is a school that the school board constantly talks about. They're going to close sometime on here. So I know at Hawthorne there isn't any over-enrollment there. And Sandburg School is a block from my house, and I've never heard anything there that they're packed to the gills or anything here with it.
Still be nice to have an official review of that.
Yeah.
If you're going to
Rather
check
than
over
just-
it, please do that.
The one other thing with the traffic, the only way out of here, if you wanna go downtown, is down Sycamore. You cannot, this little area is landlocked, or whatever you call it. You have to go down Sycamore to get to East Washington, to turn left to go uptown. So with all that traffic, and we have so much traffic on Sycamore now, speed limit, I mean, it's unbelievable. So that's a problem. At one time, we were told we could have a different street construction, we'd have frontage roads and everything. Well, none of that ever happened. And, I live in the middle of Sycamore, I can hardly get out of your driveway sometimes. But another thing was, I called the city department about resurfacing that road, Sycamore, because all the areas, all the little side streets around here had this nice blacktop. And, so I was given person after person, and finally they told us Sycamore is in such bad condition that they weren't gonna resurface it.
Okay.
So I don't know what they're gonna do with it.
Reconstruct?
I don't know, that wasn't said,
I think
but I
they're,
said,
I
pardon me?
think they're planning on redoing the sewer.
Okay.
They dug it up last year in quite a few places.
I asked Joe last year, I called him, and he told me that unless we were going to pay for curb and gutter, the city wasn't going to do any redevelopment of our road, that they were going to leave us and let it rot.
Okay,
Did
because.
they chip seal it or not?
No.
No,
That's
that's
what I
everything,
asked for.
everything
That's
in
chip
this
seal.
area has been
Yeah,
done.
that's chip seal that we have now.
Not on
On
Syc-
MacArthur, but I don't
Not
think
Not
they
on
did.
Sycamore,
Not
no,
on
they
Sycamore.
stopped.
Not on Sycamore.
No, they
Just
stopped
they
partway
didn't
down.
do it.
And I, whoever I talked to was supposedly the last word, and I said, but we don't want curb and gutter. And he said, then why are you calling me? Well, that was the end of that conversation.
Yeah, it's true that the city, I mean, this is totally offshoot of
Yeah,
the
well,
discussion
no,
we
but
should
it
be
is
having
a
with
lot
the.
more traffic, I'm saying.
Okay, okay.
I'm thinking of the traffic from those 36 units. It's gonna go down Sycamore.
Can I
Sure,
interject
sure.
something? One of the reasons that the location in the preliminary market study was favorable for this project is because of our proximity to the bus stop.
Okay?
Because oftentimes the individuals, like our birth moms that go through our program in the visit house, they're not in a position to have an automobile or yet alone maintain one. And so that's why it puts us in a better position with WIDA, is because of the proximity to the bus stop, walking distance to a grocery store, medical services, and that kind of thing. That also makes it attractive to elderly, with those same considerations. So our thought is that it's highly unlikely that it is going to generate some traffic, but not with who we're targeting, not to the extent that you might be thinking. I mean, I know, they just do not have the resources for
Right.
that.
So I have a question. I think Karen is great, what they're doing is great. I don't understand why it needs to be so big. Like, if they only need 6 units, why not build 6 to 10 units? Did I miss that at the beginning?
Again, the section 42 program is developed and will be part of the CareNet umbrella, that's correct. Eventually, it takes time, eventually it's gonna take time, it's not like they have 20 people or 30 people now that can just fill it, but eventually it will take time where people will be in the facility, a good majority will come from CareNet.
Can I add to that? So I kind of thought through that same process that Kiki did, and I went. You got typically 5 girls here at a time, and they stay for 9 months. So if we have that, it's going to take a long time, and it sounds to me like the idea is that they're eventually going to transition out of there. They're going to live there till the kids are 2 or 3 years old. Hopefully, life is going to continue to progress on the right track, right? And they're probably maybe going to move into their own owner-occupied house somewhere else.
Maybe a lot of people stay there for 20, 30 years. A lot of
I know.
people, that's their home.
We were told that with individuals with disabilities can often move in and stay.
Yeah, that's their home. That is their home for a long time, for a lot of people. Longevity is not just 1 or 2 years. This is their home.
So transitional housing isn't really
It's
No.
not
an
really
accurate
the right
moniker.
term.
No,
Okay.
that's, yeah.
Okay.
No. That's a very good question. The success rate for people staying and establishing themselves in a neighborhood and with these units is a very long time. It's just not 2 or 3 years.
So can I look into the future, maybe 5 or 6 years? It sounds to me like if things are really successful, then your original intent is now completely defeated on a personal level for CareNet. Because now you want at least 6 units for your girls, and now we're at capacity. All 36 units are filled and no one wants to leave. What happens? You know what I mean? Like, are there 6 units that no matter what are going to be, you can only stay for X amount of time?
Well, I think the plan is eventually, every year it's not like 36, or if you had a 48 or a 50 unit that everybody stays every year, there's at least a 10% rate where people move out and 400 people move in. That's pretty typical.
Okay.
To take it one step further, if the girls or the single parents do better, they may get cars. And then again, that whole not having as much traffic thing isn't really applicable.
Will we all get a sheet showing all the specs of how big the building is on the lot, and how big the parking lot is, and how far back from the road and so on?
You know, one of the things that we've been able to do from a community standpoint is what we can do is we can download this and put this on the CareNet website, so you'd be able to open it up and do it that way. We could also put this probably in 8.5 by 11 formats and make some plans available. But we can easily put this onto the CareNet website so you can take a look at this.
That'd be good for some of us who are computer literate, but for some who aren't.
Some not, we'll have them available for plan sets, okay?
Thank you.
One of the, I want to get into the plans a little bit. The main person too that we did not talk about that's a team member is the architect, a very important person. Working with Gary Brink and Associates, and Gary Brink and his firm designed this building. Professional architect here in Madison, been established for a very long time. He's worked on numerous projects in the city of Madison and the state, and has received many awards for his architecture and design, neighborhood design approvals, meeting the needs of a building as it fits into a neighborhood. So we're very happy that Gary is on board with us. Gary has, and his staff, Josh Wilcox, has produced a contemporary, newer design. So when you look at this, you're going to see masonry, you see some wood, some metal railings, you'll see some metal panel work, windows. It's a contemporary design that they feel is a fit for a project like this. So from an elevation standpoint, this is what the project represents in terms of complex.
It'll cut off the skyline.
It's as you can see, it's a 3-story structure. There's first floor, second floor, and third floor.
Oh, if there's any problems, like, noise and drunkenness, drugs, whatever, is there somebody on the property all the time that you can call, or you just call the police, or what?
Yeah, we'll have a management office on site, right off the lobby on the first floor of the building. There won't be somebody there 24 hours a day, but, that office will be occupied during business hours, Monday through Friday, and then there will be on-call personnel that will be available 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if this is a well-known fact, but all the residents that have to go through Meridian, they do very in-depth background checks, criminal background checks, everything.
You can always call your alder too.
We had enough problems with the apartments down there, we don't even see them, But there's so many people down there that could make trouble,
Well, another thing that's
I had a lot of stuff stolen out of my vans and different things.
That's another thing, Harold, that's very important. The property manager has an obligation to make sure that if it's a 2 or 3 or 4 bedroom unit, like a 3-bedroom, that the occupancy level for that 3-bedroom is maintained as the density requirement by the city of Madison. So you can't have 10 or 12 people living in an apartment unit. Again, that has to be carefully reviewed and managed by the property manager.
They could have 10 or 12 if they were a single-family unit, correct?
Heather, how is that?
Yeah, if it's a family related by.
Yeah, it's not.
Blood, marriage, adoption, whatever, then there isn't a limit, but otherwise, of unrelated individuals, there's a.
But I could move in with my brother and my sister,
Yeah.
and they're 12 kids each if I wanted.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure that it's not a number, it's based on what the family unit is.
How many parking spaces will there be for each unit?
You want to tell me a little bit?
There'll be
For instance?
46 spaces total on the site, so 46 spaces for the 36 units. Yeah, so, more than one per apartment unit.
So some of the parking is that a picture of it there?
That's a picture of the elevation of the building. As far as looking at it from a helicopter view, looking down on the project.
Yeah.
There you go.
So none of the parking's underground?
No, it's surface.
I was just wondering,
This is
where
the
the
parking lot right
building
here.
and parking lot is.
Building, parking lot,
Where's the
CareNet.
road?
Right here is MacArthur.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and there's the entrance coming into the site.
Mhm.
You know, one of the things that's been so nice with CareNet is it almost looks like a house. It's square, it's traditional, it very much looks residential.
Well, it fits the character of our
And it
neighborhood.
fits the character of our neighborhood. This modern building, kind of like CLA, that one is a very, what do you call it? Contemporary. I don't feel it fits the neighborhood. I don't feel this fits the neighborhood at all. I love the way that CareNet looks.
Yeah, CareNet's great.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, I had been looking at zoning code, and maybe this is a question for Heather. So, because this is a commercial property, but you're asking for a conditional use for a residential use on the ground floor, that doesn't change the zoning parking regulations. It still stays under the parking regulations for a commercial use. Because I've done the math on 36 units, and there's no way to only have 46 with the current zoning law if you fall under, like, say, an R4. Because basically, you got to have one per every one unit. You got to have 1.75 for every two, right?
So there's a minimum parking requirement. I believe for this facility, I just looked at the application today. It would be 63 stalls if it was, if it met the parking required for a residential building. The zoning administrator can waive up to 19 stalls in any project, and then once you get a request that is for a reduction of more than 19, it actually needs to go to the plan commission for review. In this case, I think the reduction is 17 or 18 beneath what would be required, so it would be just an administrative approval for that. And in Madison, where surface parking isn't looked upon fondly, I'll say, by the plan commission, I think even if this was a plan commission related issue, and if they could demonstrate that number of stalls could adequately serve their needs, it would probably be something that would be approved by the plan commission. That specific parking question.
And I'll just give an example of our concern of parking. We actually have two other apartment complexes down here. The first one has 30 units. And I think there are more 2- and 3-bedroom units down there, but they have 63 parking stalls. And with that, quite a bit of Sycamore people, I know that's a big part of their concern because we really aren't suited for off-street parking. I mean, the offset, the way the streets are, we're an old farm road, right? And they have a lot of off-street parking there every evening, in front of their houses and doors slamming at 2 a.m. when they're asleep. So there's a big concern about an increase of off-street parking by not having ample parking spots.
The other problem that happens is in the winter, you get the snow. When you get the snow and you get people parking down there, you can only get one car through Sycamore at a time. And virtually that would be the same here.
And that's half the reason I put all those rocks on my yard, because they ruin your grass. They'll park, you have to park so far.
There, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
You have
everywhere.
to park so far off the road that then they end up ruining half your front lawn.
Yep, they'll drive right in your lawn.
That's our concerns.
And fire trucks can hardly get through in winter. So that's another real concern.
Yes,
If I can
definitely.
cut to the chase on something, I've talked with a lot of the residents, and I've gotten the feeling for a lot of what our concern is. And we all have our different ideas, but I think it all can be summarized that a lot of us are very much concerned with the overall density of the project. It's the 36 units, and the reason being is that we like the character of our neighborhood, we like the feel of our neighborhood, we like the quality of life we have in our neighborhood. And I believe the city likes to maintain all of those same things in a neighborhood. And we're very concerned. We have 25 houses on MacArthur Road, single-family units. And this is a really unique neighborhood. I actually think probably back in the day that there was supposed to be a frontage road. And when these went commercial, I've talked with some of the older residents, Harold in particular. He was around for multiple rezonings. This originally was all residential, all single-family zoned. It never had that frontage road, so we get a lot of traffic, we get a lot of other things. And if you take 36 units, you're going to more than double just this block